Welcome to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast. I'm your host, Kojo Bafun, and this podcast is an extension of my book, also called Listen to Your Footsteps, which is a collection of essays, reflections, and poetry on things like fatherhood, identity and belonging, growing up, creativity, and the lessons learned. The purpose of this podcast is to gain insight and learn from the journeys that others have taken. I explore the worlds of art, culture, design, business, creativity, and life from the perspective of Africans who are contributing to the redefinition of the continent and who we are. So my guest today is Dillion S. Phiri, who defines himself, at least according to LinkedIn, as a strategy director, social sculptor, and filmmaker. He's founder and creative director of Creative Nestlings, entrepreneur in residence at in Accelerator, and founder of CRCO. Welcome.
Thank you.
My first question would be, who are your heroes when you're growing up?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think it was Nas because of hip hop. Then, of course, the basketball legends like your MJs and everything, because I thought I was going to be in the NBA. So I think those kind of people were my heroes. Action stars, because I really wanted to make movies. So it would be like your Denzels, your Jackie Chans and all. I just enjoyed seeing great movies and all. So I had really creative ambitions growing up and stuff. So those were my heroes, yeah.
I mean, what drew you to let's say, what you define as creative ambitions? I mean, where did you grow up, first of all?
So I was born in Kwekwe in Zimbabwe.
Okay.
Grew up there for a couple of years till I was 11, and then I moved to Bindura and then Harare, and then came to South Africa. I went to Palabora for like 3 years. So I grew up like in between these two countries, basically.
How old were you when you came here?
14.
Okay.
14.
So it was still relatively early.
Yeah, 20 years, 20 years, 21 years, yeah, somewhere there.
Let's say the basketball and then the music and the filmmaking and the creative sides. Were those the dreams? You know, we have these dreams or we have these ambitions when we're young. And it really is just kind of this, it's like a random idea because it looks good.
Yes.
Was it that, or was there something more to it, would you say?
I think it was more they look good. Those are the guys we saw on TV and all that kind of stuff. And we saw them being successful and being better off and all that kind of stuff. And I really did try to be better at basketball. I was just too lazy. It was just not for me. I remember there was an opportunity to play in Limpopo there. There was a team that represented the province. There was an opportunity to play for that. I just would not show up to practice. I just would not. I think I had the intelligence for the game, but not necessarily the mental mindset to exercise. And I was skinny for a very long time. So I also had the subconscious, I'm too skinny for this game and all that kind of stuff. A friend of mine in school, David, tried to really push me because he played also for the team. And but I just wanted to be an NBA player. But I think also because it's so far removed from our day-to-day reality here in South Africa, basketball is not like a big thing.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, I mean, it is now.
It's starting now, yes.
But for the first time in forever.
Yeah. And I remember when I moved to South Africa, that's when Scoop and then we had that basketball show. So there was some movement in terms of basketball, but I just never took to it in terms of me being actively wanting to pursue a career in it. Yeah.
At what stage did you have, if you have already or not, at what stage did you have an idea in terms of the path that you wanted to take?
I think I kind of knew early on because my mom was a creative, even though, so a bit of background, my mom came to South Africa and she became a maid in South Africa, right? She worked in Cape Town, she worked in here, and she worked in and then worked in Limpopo also as a maid and all that kind of stuff. But she always had these creative projects she was doing. So all the clothes I wore, all the backpacks I had, they were all collaborations between me and her. Oh, I saw this backpack, I want to make one like this. I saw this and all that kind of stuff. So I always had those creative ambitions because she was creative. She even got to a point where she was selling clothes in Cape Town in Long Street in one of the stores, like stocking some of her designs and all that kind of stuff. But she just never took to it. And then I took to it more in terms of the creative ambitions, basically, yeah. So I think that's when I knew when I was about, I think, late high school. That's when I kind of decided really deciding, I think I want to be a creative. And then even when I went to university, getting the tech degree was more of a promise to her than me, because I wanted to make movies. I wanted to go study film. But then I just, when I did sign up for film, I actually wanted to study architecture first, but I couldn't draw. So I remember at the DIT website, they would say submit portfolio. I'm like,
Yeah.
portfolio of what? They're like designs and drawings. I'm like, I can't do that. And then I wanted to make films, and then I did some to UCT. I got in, but then when I looked at the curriculum, it said that you would have to spend the next 3 years, like it's mostly theory than practical. And I know myself, I'm not a good learner. I'm not a classroom person, so the tech degree just became as an extra because my mom was like, let's do tech degree because I'm migrant families. Tech degree, you can do it anywhere, because it was a time where tech everything. You know, if you learn how to code, you will be set for life and all that kind of stuff. Which there's some truth to it. It's actually helped me a lot more than anything else. The tech degree and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
How would you say it's helped you?
My first job, I worked at Cape Town Tourism. I was part of their tech team. I was responsible for making sure that the iPads were rolled out. There was a time when iPad was the next big deal in tourism. So every visitor center had to have an iPad, had to have a system installed and some software. So it really helped me kind of understand and grasp how organizations work, how cities work. Because I think as young people, we never really get a glimpse of how policy is made. Being a Cape Town Tourism, you get to meet the different people that are responsible for city planning, how that road is made, how that building is developed there and all that kind of stuff. It taught me a lot about policy and framework, being in that space, but from a technology perspective. So how to bring technology into a business and how to monetize technology. And then also through that, that's when I started really getting to meet a lot of creatives, because my job allowed me to travel across the city. Right, anywhere in Cape Town, I could go for free and all that kind of stuff, and see and just see how the city functions and see how to integrate technology. But then through that, I started meeting a lot of creatives. That's what led to building like things like Creative Nestlings and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
How would you define a creative? And I'll tell you where I'm asking. So I'm not kind of leading you down
a rabbit hole.
Down a very random rabbit hole, because so I've grappled with this idea of creative as a noun.
Yeah.
There's a guy whose stuff I read a lot and I follow, a guy called Austin Kleon.
Yes.
I mean, he talks about creative as a verb.
Yes, it's a verb. Yeah.
And that's for me, that's always made sense.
Yeah.
Right? But it's become one of those things, I guess, like influencer.
Yeah.
Where creative is a noun.
Yeah.
But nobody ever really defines it. And it ends up feeling very kind of broad and let's say a catch-all for anything that one struggles to define.
Yeah.
So how would you define a creative?
I think it's both a noun and a verb, right? I can Google my English right now. For me, everyone's creative. We're all inherently creative,
absolutely.
Right? But it's a muscle. It's a muscle that you have to exercise it. You have to train it. You have to figure it out. You have to understand it better. And then you are a creative once you've understood it. We're all inherently creative, but then it's a choice that, okay, cool, I'm going to exercise this muscle. It's like a bodybuilder. We all have bodies, but the bodybuilder is a person that goes to gym regularly, religiously, eats the right way. That's things that's required. That for me is a creative person, right? A person that actually goes out of their way then to flex this muscle, to build this muscle, to eat right for this muscle, and actually practice it as an active. So that's why it's more of a verb. You have to be doing something creative. And I think the challenge has always been there's the commercial side of being a creative, like the advertising agencies and all that kind of stuff. And then there's the more, how can I say, hands-on approach, which is more the visual artists and everything. For me, all of those people, all of those spectrums are all part of the creative industries and creative industries and community, right? And I think I like it broad because I think it being broad allows opportunity for people to participate in it however they feel comfortable in it.
Okay.
I think it's one of the only few spaces where a person can just walk in today and say, okay, cool, I have an idea that I think can make society not necessarily better, but I can contribute to society, right? And the creative industries is one of the best way it's allowed to do that, where you don't even seek permission, you just start doing it. And I think by the moment you start doing it, then for me, you are a creative. Then there's tiers, of course, in terms of depending on people's success, what success looks like, what failure looks like, what being okay with it by practicing with it. Some people are freelancers, some people are full-time jobbers in the creative industry and all that kind of stuff. So I think it depends on you and if you're flexing that muscle. As long as you're doing, I think you are creative, regardless, of what discipline or how well you're doing it and all that kind of stuff. Because I think you figure it out as we go. I mean, some of the best creators spend 20 years being bad at being creatives, and then one day it just clicks. Right. And I think that's the beauty of the creative industries and all that kind of stuff, and just being a creative. Yeah.
Where did you study university?
So, funny story. So I went to the University of Greenwich, but corresponding in Cape Town at CTI.
Okay.
I was supposed to go, but yeah, I'm a refugee in this country, so the politics of a refugee going to study somewhere else was just too much for us to handle financially and also just paperwork wise. So I ended up corresponding here because they had promised us 2 years you do in South Africa, and then the third year, which is your final year, your honors year, you would do in the UK, but that never materialized.
Yeah, because I was curious because I saw that and I was just trying to figure out. I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah, those corresponding degrees that our migrant parents like.
Well, I mean, they have their use.
Yeah, no, 100%.
They do have their use, and to a certain extent, actually, I think there's a space for it.
Yeah.
Even not for, let's say, migrants.
Yes.
Where there's a space for, there's an opportunity to access spaces when you can't physically access spaces.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's one of the most. I have kids now who they are all South African, so it's interesting now. Do I push them towards studying at a UCT or UJ, or do I push them towards a more global degree? It's also interesting, like a global university. Do I put, because my son, for example, he's actually left today now. It's holidays now, but he wants to go practice basketball, so they're practicing at school. He wants to be in the NBA. So now I'm like, okay, cool. How do I figure out how to get him to America, at least by grade 10, somewhere there, so at least he can have a fair chance at trying to make it into the NBA. If he fails it, at least we know that, I don't think he'll fail, but I think even if it's G League or whatever, as long as he gets in, I think that's a win. But then also the degree he gets out of that also could be a really great degree for him to work anywhere in the world.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are ways. And from what I find, the big positive that I find with the way the world is today, especially for children. Also, my children are South African. They were born here, although I'm not, but my wife is. The conversation I've been having with my children, two parts to what you were saying. So the one was, when you're looking at what you want to do after school, don't limit yourself. Don't limit your thinking to UCT, VETS, UJ, etc. So look broader, recognize that there's a broader world out there.
Yeah.
Once you've done that, then we can look in terms of what we're able to do.
Yes.
So I was like, so my thing has been, don't limit yourself. Don't limit your thinking before we get there.
Yeah.
So have expanded thinking, and then it's like, okay, it's my job. If you want to go to such and such a place, it's my job to see if it's possible.
Yep.
And if it's not possible, I'll be honest and say, hey, listen, right now, it's tough. It's not possible. So maybe, what's our plan B? Plan B maybe is UCT.
Yeah.
So that's how I've been approaching that.
Yeah.
And like my son, like I said to you earlier, I mean, my son he's on the verge of matric. So that conversation is a lot closer than the conversations that you're having. In terms of being able to access spaces, I mean, the basketball thing specifically, because I kind of have some experience and some knowledge in that area, there are ways.
Yes.
And they are a lot more accessible than one would think, because NBA Africa has been, for example, pushing. There's the NBA Junior Academy on the continent. There's basketball academies around the city. My son used to go to one, and kids are getting opportunities to go for high school. In other places. Yeah. I think definitely not limiting things is important. So I'm teaching my kids that, but tell me what your dream is, right? No matter how crazy or how big it is and all that kind of stuff, let's do it. Let's figure it out. My job as a parent is to figure out the roadmap to get there. It might not be straight. It might make some delays here and there, but my job is to try and figure out how to get you there and all that kind of. And my mom really instilled that in me to say, life is a journey. So the destination is no one knows what the destination is. So we have to continue moving forward, right? And so dream big and like even now, discussing with my mom is always interesting because I'm always scared to tell her my ambitious ideas. But now she's actually one of the biggest cheerleaders for me, her and my partner.
of the ideas I had. Funny enough, my brother is one that I've had to drag along. Only now is he starting to say, "Oh, okay, this guy's on something," because he's a life moves one way and that's it. He got his degree. He stayed in the same place. He's a coder, so he codes in the house every day. Even though the office is down the road, he's in the house every single day. Everything is calculated. In the last year, I think he's been more open now because I think I've proved to him that my crazy ideas are worth something, right? And I was saying to my kids, you can either be my brother or me. It's okay. It's fine. Like the choices are yours, but be ambitious enough to see yourself wherever you want to be, and see, like, and I'm a living example of that. It's possible, regardless of your background, the circumstances, and all that kind of stuff. You can figure it out as long as you're ambitious enough, and if you truly believe that God is here for you, it's all possible. But it's gonna be painful. It's not gonna be easy. But be willing to work at it. Like even now, I told you they're 12-year-olds, right? 3 12-year-olds, and then so I have 2 kids of my own with my ex-wife. One day Nikki, one is 12, and then my daughter is 7. And then Nanka, my partner, she has a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. And then I've adopted my niece, Akila, right? So what we're teaching them now is holidays, right? Nanka is painting a mural in Mawoneng. So they go with Nanka every day to go paint the mural with her as a way to show them that you want the iPad, you want the smartwatch, you want the good school, you want the shoes, you want the Jordans. Oh my God, everyone, those kids want Jordans 24/7. You want the Jordans. Guess what? This is what pays for those things. And here's the labor of it, right? Now you know the skill. Now you know what it takes to be here. Yes, dream as much as possible, but understand hard work is part of the process, right? It's going to look beautiful at the end. Like I was saying to him, by tomorrow, the mural is going to look beautiful. Guess what? That pain that you were feeling those 2 days that you were there, it's going to mean nothing. Because now when other kids are telling you, oh, they went to this place for holiday, you can come back, hey, I painted a mural. Right? That's a different approach to life and all. So I'm trying to instill that work. You got to work at it, push yourself, and also be ambitious. I think it's always challenging, especially for young Black kids, to dream big, and the world is theirs. And I'm trying to figure out how do I get them to see the world also, because I think the younger they see the world, the better chances of them seeing themselves in different places in the world. Because if they see South Africa, then they're going to all see themselves in South Africa. But the moment their world expands physically, I think mentally also expands also. With the internet, yes, they're more expansive, but I think them seeing those places that they see on the internet, I think also change their dynamic and the opportunities. Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. It's a challenge that I was never able to get right. But there's also much to be said about one's own perspectives.
Yes.
So, I mean, I always say, so I was fortunate enough to travel quite a bit as a child. And so because of that, especially when I moved here and I spent time here, I realized how it just slightly changes my lens. I have a very kind of different lens to a lot of the people I interact with and a lot of the people around me. And my son actually recently went on a trip to Europe through school. Yeah. And experiencing certain things and kind of sending messages home and complaining about this or liking that. And I had to stop myself from going, dude, like it's not that big a deal. Yeah. Because I realized this was his first experience of it. Yeah. So, I mean, he was complaining about being racially profiled with his friends, or just kind of the energy when you walk into a space. But I have traveled enough that I don't even bother with that. Yeah. I put on my headphones. I always say, any space I'm in, I have a right to be in that space. Yeah. It's not, the right is not given by
somebody else.
Yeah. And that's because, like I said, I was fortunate as a child, going to New York with my father or Washington or the UK, going to family in Germany as a child, like visit relatives. Yeah. That's how I was taught. Like that's how I was raised. But realizing that I needed to take a step back because he needs to experience it.
Yeah, those are his new experiences. Right? Yeah.
And he needs to figure it out for himself in his mind. Yeah. About what it means in interacting in those spaces. But it's also, I mean, I'm curious because your kids are still young. right? In terms of like what they want to do. So I'll give you my side of it first, right? I was always going to go to university.
Yeah.
My father was an academic who went into business, and there was no option. There was no alternative option.
Yeah.
Like, as far as he was concerned, you go to university. So I was always going to go to university. But at the same time, I had a very broad degree because he had different businesses and I was involved in the businesses. So I was given a foundation where I did a bit of everything.
Yeah.
So I did a BCom and I did commercial law for 2 years. I did business information systems for 2 years. I majored in economics and marketing and business administration. And not because I was an overachiever, just because I only needed 2 majors.
Yeah.
And I was working during holidays in the family business.
Yeah.
So from when my son was around 12, the conversation I've had with him is that we're in a very different world. So we don't know whether you'll go to university or not. You need to decide what it is that you want to do first.
Yeah.
Before we make that decision, because I mean, at some stage, 14, he said, I want to develop games.
Yeah.
I'm like, great. You can actually start doing that now. Yeah. By the time you're done with high school, you could be working in the space.
Yeah.
So if you do that and you follow that path, it doesn't make sense for you to come out and then go sit in university for 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
And I found, especially with the school, with the teachers, when they're giving advice on careers, they were to a certain extent still viewing the world from the perspective of, how things were traditionally. It's like you go through, it's a linear process, right? You go to kindergarten, primary school, high school, tertiary, you go get a job, you work your way up.
Yeah.
Do you have that conversation with your kids?
100%. Because Nankai doesn't have a degree. She also dabbled and dropped out a couple of times in different spaces, and we always try and show them the difference and the opportunities in both. Right. Mm-hmm. I had a degree because I'm a migrant. I wasn't certain about. I didn't want to be a waiter. That was just the bare minimum. I just didn't want to become a waiter because I owed it to my mom to be able to provide for myself and also for my family and all that kind of stuff. So I made sure to at least get the degree. The degree is just a safety net in case things don't work out. I have to migrate somewhere else and all that kind of stuff. With them, I think, similar to you, I think the goal is build enough of a safety net in terms of entities, not necessarily wealth, but in terms of entities that they can inherit. Right, there's Creative Nestlings, then there's Nanka's company Kiwatika, and then there's Crico. I just started it recently. Right, those are some of those.
How you pronounce it?
Yeah, Crico or CRC. I don't know. But I'll explain later on what it is. But the idea is, even if you don't make it, in terms of, if you, like for example, I know myself, I am not a classroom person. I sucked at paying attention and just the ability to, I was good at English and all that kind of stuff, writing compositions, writing stories and everything. But when it comes to mathematics, trigonometry, I wasn't the best at it. So even me passing matric in South Africa I got condoned into passing basically mathematics because my mind just does not work that way. I'm a problem solver, but not in that kind of way. I'm a physical problem solver, like mental problem solver, not necessarily mathematical, right? So for my kids, it's more like, yes, you can have a degree if you want to. It's a choice. But like you said, you must know what you want early on. You must start experimenting with it now, right? I'm constantly looking at, okay, cool. Like my niece, Akila, we fight a lot because she doesn't want to do chess at school. But I'm like, I know you're good at chess. But the only way you can quit chess is if you can beat me at chess. I'm not the best at chess. But I know now it's going to take her a year doing chess, going to tournaments, participating. Maybe she'll fall in love with it, maybe she won't, but she would have done it and ticked it the box, right? And so I'm helping them figure out what they like. My daughter wants to do ballet. Not certain about ballet because she hasn't figured out balance yet, generally, right? But I can see it's building up her confidence. It's building up her character more. So, but then I can see she's more of an actress than a ballet person and all that kind of stuff. She's only 7, so but I'm trying to help them figure out and navigate like the possibilities and showing them careers. I'm always showing, have you seen this job? I take them to some of my talks when I'm doing like creative nesting stuff, or when I'm getting interviewed. I take them to those places so they can meet those kind of creators and see. They've been to studios, they've been to art galleries, they have been to film studios, they've been in different places and all that kind of stuff, just so they can start picking up what they want to be and who they want to be. And like I said, you shape it early on, then the degree becomes a choice. Because nowadays you can get degrees later on in life after I leave the full life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And also sometimes you can get an honorary degree. Sometimes you don't even need a degree most of the time. Nowadays, you don't necessarily need a degree. You just need a skill. And I think like harnessing that skill is super, super important. What like a trick I'm trying to do with them now is I never could draw, but I can see they draw. So now they all have iPads anyway because of school, right? So you must learn how to draw on an iPad. Be an illustrator, because it's a skill you can start monetizing now already. You can start figuring out now if you want to, right? Like one of my favorite artists is Faith 47's kid, K Tama. Amazing artist, right? But he started early on in his life. Now he's painting murals around the world and all that kind of stuff, you know. And I want my kids to see that it's possible early on to do whatever it is that you say yourself. You want to be a musician. Like my son likes to make beats. Not the greatest beats, but what I do is that I'll send them to friends of mine who are music producers. Or he made a comic book. I think when he was 7 years old, he made a little comic book of his. I lost it, but I'd given it to a friend of mine, who's an animator and illustrator, right? To kind of give feedback and just so you can see that it's possible. So it's not so far. The distance between your dream and reality, it happening, is not as far as you think, right? Sometimes we even go doing like printing t-shirts. Oh, he wants to print a t-shirt, or any of them want to print a t-shirt. I'll take them to the printers and then we go press the t-shirt. Say, done. Now what?
So I'm curious. Here's a very random question for you. Because you recognize the value of creativity, right? And the arts, do you worry that your children will wake up one day and go, do you know what? I'm going to be an accountant. Like
I'm fine with that. I'll be very happy. Yeah,
like that formality.
Yes.
Because like you said, I mean, initially you said, it's either like you or like your brother.
Yeah.
But in a way, both you and your brother are in the same.
Yeah.
You're in the same. You're in the same space. It's just a different approach to it. Right?
Yes.
And you had to do that out of necessity in terms of your background, the circumstances. Your children are growing up with a softer life.
Yes.
Okay. Like all our kids, for better or for worse, they're living a version of the soft life.
Yes.
Because of the work that we put into being able to raise them and give them opportunity. And what tends to happen is, not everyone is going to go down the same path.
Yeah.
And then, one or two of your kids may decide they actually want to go a more traditional and inverted commas formal path.
Yeah, I'll be happy. I think you need diversity in the family, right? So I have two siblings. My brother is a coder. And then my older sister, she's a project manager. She works in climate change in Cape Town. So you can see the diversity already there. We because we're so different, me and her, we can't even plan anything because she's a project manager, and it must be strict. It's climate change, whereas me, I'm more the creative project manager. It's more, nuanced and all that kind of stuff. And my brother tends to be the mediator in between who kind of brings us together. And I want them to have diversity because there's 5 of them, right? That it's a blended family. There's 5 of them. And I can already see diversity. Akila is most likely going to be a lawyer or something else. I can or a creative, who knows? Because I saw yesterday she was trying to illustrate because Nanka got a brief to illustrate to paint a mural for some fruit and veg company. So I saw Akila trying to draw some like on an iPad and all that. Because we said if you can draw it, we'll give you the money for the design fee that would have paid somebody else who designed it. You can get the money. So he's trying to do it. So I think that the more diversity, the better. The more opportunity, the better. But I'm teaching them choices. Right, because I think sometimes you might like when kids are too spoiled, when there's too much choices, they don't know. When there's too much opportunity, they don't know how to make a choice. So I'm also teaching them choices. And
there's also most of us.
Yes,
most of us, the way the world is, there's just too much choice.
But action is important, right? So that's why they're painting this mural with Nong. If design was there, they're painting it. They've seen from start to end, right? I also show them, like for example, they just moved to a private school now recently. All 5 of them, right? The boys' school and the girls' school. They're doing a lot of presentations. right? And my work is full of presentations. So now I show them the presentations that I make at work, and then so when you do a presentation, the house there the few things you should always be able to do. Number one is making a presentation. Like that's number one. That's the easiest thing I should be able to do. Make a presentation. Even the 7-year-old, you make a presentation. If you want something for Christmas, you make a presentation. If you want something for whatever, you make a presentation. So if you want to go on camp, make a presentation, because that way, if you know how to present information, the world is such a way that it's about how you present yourself. It's about how you present information. So having those skills and having the action-oriented approach, I think, I'm not the best parent, I think. I'm just trying to figure out things that I didn't get and got at the same time, right? Because I didn't got my father also, so it's like I was trying to be a dad to number one, just initially to 2 kids of my own, and then now inheriting 3 kids. It's an interesting, but I'm trying to make it as fun as possible, and also applying it to myself. I think it's easier than trying to force a version that I would have seen on TV. I'm just doing the version that I think is the best in my ability, basically.
Listen, none of us really knows what we're doing.
Yeah, 100%.
As parents, like we're all fumbling our way through it.
Yeah,
I suspect my daughter would thrive in your household, because when she wanted a new dog, she did a presentation, and then she recorded it with her phone on the television.
Yeah,
and did a voiceover for it.
CapCut, was it?
It was long.
Yeah.
So I don't know what she used. And then for Christmas, it was I think it was like a 10-page PDF.
Yeah.
Divided into even the most expensive, like the expensive things, the stuff I want, the stuff I need.
Yes. Needs and wants, very important.
So yeah, so that's the way she kind of processes and thinks about stuff.
Yeah, that's important.
How did your mother do it? I mean, you're talking about this 3 of you.
Yeah.
And when she started off, like you're saying, she started off as a maid.
Yeah.
From your perspective,
yeah.
And obviously it'll be your lens.
Yeah. I think it's through God's grace that my mom was able to get 3 kids with degrees, right? And a semblance of success in each of their careers and all that kind of stuff, right? And I think it's just, she prayed a lot, but also she worked hard a lot. And so also the people that she met, my mom is a people's person. The people that she met along the way helped her also, with catalysts in our lives, you know. I remember my degree was partially paid by a guy that she used to work for, as an architect family. They paid partially, like the initial, I think it was like 30,000 deposit that was required for me to get into school for university and all that kind of stuff. So those kind of people helped really well. Yeah, I think through just hard work and just pushing herself and never being scared. My mom's not a scared person. She like now, she now sells Tupperware because it doesn't have anything to do with her life right now. She sells Tupperware, right? And I'm like, why are you doing this? But because she has a goal. She wants to be the best at it. And I'm like, but you know, there's other careers you could do and it's easier. No, she wants to be the best. And she's nail sprayed. She wants to be the best at it. Now she's got the car now. Now she wants the bigger car. She wants to be able to make a salary out of it. She wants to be able to do. So watching her, I think, over the years growing up, I think just that sheer determination that whatever's possible, we can do it. And my mom would never say no. She would like, maybe tomorrow, maybe later on, maybe a year from now on, maybe 2 years from now on. She would never say no. Because to her it was, as long as it's rational what you're asking for, is it a need or a want, right? Can you put it in those 2 categories? We'll figure it out. And it was always interesting because she would always figure it out. Somehow, things will always figure it out. And I don't think we're not the most neediest kids, the 3 of us. We're minimalists. I work like all the time. I don't ask for much in life. But the things I do ask for tend to be quite expensive because it's like the iPhone, the MacBook, whatever, and all that kind of stuff. But she would like, oh, go work as a waiter. I worked as a waiter for like 3 years, right, in Cape Town whilst I was at school, university, and all that kind of stuff. I started building websites, right, because the people around my mom would say, oh, we're looking for websites. My mom's like, but my son studying technology. I think he can build a website for you, right? So I think she really figured it out, but just positive energy. No matter how bad things are, she just moved forward. She kept moving. Even till today, she keeps moving forward. When things are bad, I just call her. I call her every day, you know. Even though like people are like, oh, mommy's boy. She's kind of my pillar, you know. Like.
You are listening to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast. a podcast in which I chat to Africans from a cross-section of society and sectors, including art, culture, design, business, and creativity, to name a few. I delve into their journeys, the decisions they've taken to get to where they are, how they do what they do, and everything in between. Essentially, we go wherever the conversation takes us. I mean, I talk to my father, well, every week, not necessarily every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's this idea that there's something wrong, or there's a slight negative, like even the idea of mummy's boy, right?
Yeah.
There's a negative to you appreciating having a great relationship with a parent.
Yeah.
I think when you lose parents, then you realize how silly that actually is.
Yep. It is very silly. Like I look at my mom, right? She lives alone. So I think me calling her every day is a good, so she stays 4 hours away. So if I can, I go see her, or she comes to come and see the kids and all that kind of stuff in us. But just knowing that every day I'm going to call her, it kind of gives her also a grounding, and also me a grounding. So I spoke to her, even though she because she wasn't raised the way she raised us, she doesn't have the greatest emotional, how can I say? She like when things get tough or tense in terms of like the dialogue, she struggles a lot. So now I realize the more I call her, the better the dialogue is. Right now we're starting to understand each other better. Now she's the one that likes things now more, because she says she likes things a lot. Now she's the one that wants things. Also now, the other day she got a smartwatch. I don't know from where. She got a smartwatch, and it's not Apple, but I'm trying to explain to her it's not Apple. But anyway, it's a smartwatch. So now she would like try calling you for me, a video call. I'm like, but no, the phone still is the video call thing, So now we're starting to be less serious, more just human, more just us. Less about stresses of life and all that kind of stuff. Now it's about we're starting to explore that real parent, like this is my mother, right? She's a human being also. She wants to enjoy life. She wants the joys of life and all that kind of stuff. I think through that daily dialogue, we're able to get there better. Before it was just always clean cut. Hey, mom, this was happening. What do you think? That's it. But now it's more fun and friendly and all that kind of stuff. And I think also her seeing me raise her grandkids a bit differently, she's starting to, okay, I get it now. She's accepting of a more looser approach to life and all that kind of stuff, and also a more happier approach to life, I think. Yeah.
But also, as we become older, our relationships to our parents should actually evolve as well. And the idea that kind of each generation does things a particular way.
Yeah.
So I don't look at it as good or bad.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I mean, one of my favorite things to do is look at Gen X videos on TikTok and stuff, because that's the generation I'm from.
Yeah.
And I was recently having a conversation with someone, and they were saying, they were complaining about how kind of, children are being raised a particular way today, which means that they don't necessarily have certain kind of tools that we had. And it's like, well, there's a lot that was messed up about how we were raised, or that era, and the way people looked at the world. We have turned out with a semblance of normality.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that we must go back to doing things a particular way. At the same time, we're sitting now and we don't know what it's going to look like 20 years from now when, this generation are now adults and they're raising children, and they're going, in our day, every generation kind of goes in our day.
Yeah.
But I did find with my father, I mean, I was mid-40s when my father passed away.
Yeah, condolence.
So we had the opportunity to interact at different stages of my life.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I'm 40 years old with children. That's going to be a different relationship.
Yeah.
And the way the relationship was before is not good or bad. It was the relationship
that it was
for that time, what it was, like us as two individuals. And when my father was what, early 80s, it got to the point where I would lecture him. You know?
Yeah.
I would tell him, no, you need to do X,
A, B, and
you need
Z,
to do Y. Usually around his health.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of, just the nature of life. And I know that, like your generation and generations coming after you, there's a lot more focus on kind of emotional intelligence and sensitivity and all of that stuff. And it's like, yeah, but we weren't raised with it.
Yeah.
And we're also trying to navigate. And it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I wish I'll interact with younger people and I go, sometimes I wish you could just be strong, eh?
Yeah.
Like, yes, I get it. Like I get all the bits and pieces and I empathize and I sympathize and I recognize. But at some point, and when I used to work in magazine, like my junior writers used to know, I mean, like, I'll help you. I'll have the conversation with you.
Yeah.
And we'll sit down and we'll plot it. But at the end of it, I'm like, yo, next time, man, just be strong. Eh?
Just be strong.
Just power through
through everything. Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. I think with different generations. I remember when I was a kid, at their age, at the younger ones, every holiday would go to my grandmother's house to go milk the cows. Their city life was not available. It was you milk the cows in the morning at 5 a.m. You do all those different things and all that kind of stuff. And I look at them now when they wake up in the morning, it's that lazy approach. I'm like, but it's fine, That was a necessity for that time for me. People still do that life still. My brother is in Zim right now, and he went to the village and all that kind of stuff. He saw people still doing the same life that we're living. But I was talking to my kids like, it's okay, because initially I was scared that the tools I have, by the time I was 12, I could cook any meal you could ask me for, because my mom would train us to cook. Show us how to cook. Like, you gotta be self-sustainable. Like, now I'm realizing I do it, but I'm doing it a bit differently. I do it in a more playful manner. Today, I'm like, today, Akila, you're helping me cook today. You're helping me cook. And it's to train them the same skills, but just a different approach to it. And also the skills that are necessary for them right now. And I think those skills were necessary for me at that time in life and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, different generations, there's good and bad and all that kind of stuff. And I don't fault anybody. And it's also going to look different. It's also going to look lazier. Think about it. Like when I was a kid, a phone was a new thing. Like when I was young, when a phone was a new thing. I think my mom used to have a brick, Now you look at the kids now, and imagine when you were born, how different the world was then to the computer. So that evolution is necessary, and you have to accept it for what it is. I think now that I'm 35, I'm realizing acceptance is number one. Just accepting things as they are, and then saying, okay, what do I do then to make my life happier, to enhance my environment around? But if you spend a lot of time complaining, I was thinking about earlier on when I was like in my 20s, I used to be, the song Kanye West used to say, is gifted in seeing what he doesn't like the most. And I realized the problem is I took that to heart, too much. I was a complainer by nature. Not necessarily a complainer, but seeing the gaps. And then what ended up happening is that I started looking at life in a glass half empty approach.
Okay.
Right. But then I realized, actually, I must just stop. I'm just looking at the world, like my life is a glass half full. Like those gaps are opportunities. What am I going to do about the opportunity? Do I do something about them or not? It's becoming that simple now. And I'm realizing actually I'm in a better place. And I think it took being my partner, Nanka. She's more, to her the world is amazing. To her the world is it will be fine. It will figure itself out and all that kind of stuff. I'm a creative, but I'm still a practical creative. So now I'm starting to learn, it's okay. There's opportunities. You don't gotta complain if it's not your place to complain. You don't gotta fix anything all the time. I have a life coach who was like, you like to fix everything. Even the conversation we're having right now, you're trying to fix the conversation. And I realized, that's the truth. I'm like, okay, from now on, I'm just gonna let go, let live, And it also took my friend Andrew, my best friend Andrew, passing away like a few months ago. That was just devastating to me completely, because I was like, but wait, we had a plan, we had goals, we had all those ambitions. Right, so now I'm like, okay, cool. I'll live vicariously. You will live vicariously through me in a more happy. He was a more for, we'll figure it out. Don't worry, man. You want this? Don't worry. Tomorrow we'll figure it out. So now I'm like, okay, let me take that actually a bit better, because I'm realizing, as you get older, you get more cynical. automatically, because you're like, you become jaded also because so much has happened to you, that trauma of life, just living and doing, especially in the creative world, you're living and losing so much 24/7 that you become jaded as you're like 35, you're looking at this 20-year-olds like, you're making TikToks, how much are you getting paid for them? Like, but actually they're having fun, let them be. If that's what it is, let them be, but they'll figure it out as they go. And I'm realizing, okay, let me take them all. Also having kids are always, everything is fun to them. Everything is a mystery to them. Everything is an adventure to them. So I'm trying to live life in a more that tone of adventure. Everything's an opportunity and all that kind of stuff. And I think as we grow older, I'm realizing that that's the most important part, because it also keeps you younger also mentally. I see.
I'm curious. Now I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you at 40 and at 45, because it is a journey.
It's a journey.
My friends call me the grumpy old man, so I'm 52.
Yeah.
So I'm happily grumpy.
Yeah.
But also have found peace and balance with some of the things. Some of the things that you're talking about. I mean, and the cell phone, I remember before the cell phone.
Yes.
I got my first cell phone when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
But I just want to change track slightly and focus more on the work. So for most people, when you're exploring anything kind of in the creative industries and the artists, and in artistry and craft, will find their thing and kind of focus on that thing and then build it.
Yeah.
You've gone the route of actually focusing on creating the foundation or the platform for those people.
Yeah.
What prompted that? I mean, what's the motivating force behind that? So instead of just being a filmmaker and going, I'm going to go out and try and make film, you went, I'm going to create a space for all of these people. And everything that you've done since then is focused on that.
Yeah. I think I fell into it I blame my mother. I think she's more of a community builder, right? Wherever she does, also a semblance of community. Apparently my dad was an engineer. I met him a couple times, I think 4 times in my life. He was more practical. So I think my brother has more of that. Me, I took my mom's side, which is the community builder. So with Creative Nestlings, what ended up happening is I was trying to make a film anyway. I was trying to become a filmmaker, but I just couldn't find community to make the films with the tools and resources. I just didn't know what to do and all that kind of stuff. And then a friend of mine, Jonathan Anzaluni, he's a photographer back in Congo now. He was like, let's be a community around this, right? Because he was a filmmaker, so he could photograph, so he could shoot the film. But then I just didn't know what to do. We just stumbled upon, okay, let's just build a community. There's no community of Black creatives in Cape Town. Where do we even find these people? So I started going around and meeting people and talking to people and all that kind of stuff. That gave birth to Creative Nestlings. The film never happened, right? Now the films are now a torture in my head 24/7. I write here and there. But with Creative Nestlings, it ended up becoming, okay, cool. I saw a necessity that there's a community. When you start on this creative machine, it's so hard to find information, to find knowledge and resources and opportunities, because they are there. The challenge has always been, there's no middle ground. There's no one that's putting those things to connect the creatives and the opportunities and the resources and tools and knowledge to the creatives and all that kind of stuff. And also there's the underestimation of what the creative industry is. And I think that's the one personal pain point that I try to solve. I am trying to show that the creative industry is part of our lives, whether we like it or not. It's valuable. The clothes we wear, the glasses, these headphones, the sound, the tools, the technology, that's all part of the creative industry. Yet we take it down. When we hear someone's a creative, we tend to look at them like, why? But I'm like, wait, but without those people, the clothes you wear, you don't have, the food you eat, all of those different innovations that are so mundane in your life, the TV, the Netflix, all of those different things, they're all part of the creative industry. And yet we tend to devalue it when we hear our child is trying to be creative or our friend is a creative, right? And with Creative Nestlings, I mean, we've had different iterations of Creative Nestlings, and I think we've finally figured out what we're trying to be. Now we just want to be a big cultural institution on the continent. Right, because I realized being a business is great, but it's not as impactful as I would have liked it to be. So we've kind of shut down the business side. Now we're just focused on the non-profit institution. So now we want to be like one of the biggest institutions in Africa when it comes to creativity, focusing on ages of 18 to 35, the youth demographic and all that kind of stuff. That's what we want to be, like that institution that when a creative anywhere on the continent wants to start their journey, this is one of the plug points that they start at. And that can carry them for those 20 for those 18 to 35 life, right? They can carry to them, because I think people get lost in the creative industry a lot, and I find people get lost because we've not tried to formalize it as much. I think the creativity should be loose, but the infrastructure should be there. That we want to build the infrastructure that's required for someone to be able to experiment and work and build and innovate and all that kind of stuff. And it's been proven that people can make careers out of the creative industry. But yet people will still dumb it down and all that kind of stuff. So I think we want to actively invest in that infrastructure. And I think over the years for creative things, that's what I've been trying to get to this point where it's more, because I think initially we were trying to build a community, right? And we did that. So we built a really good community of creators across the continent. And then we were trying to find the opportunities. We find the opportunities and then we plug them to creatives. But then we realized actually there's an infrastructure deficit, right, across the continent in terms of funding, investment, because people tend to think that funding is all creatives need. No, it's more investment than funding. Funding is okay in the beginning, as starting tools, but you need to be getting invested into later on, right? That's why I ended up going to work for a tech investment firm I'm in, because I wanted to learn how investment works, right? I've been involved in investment before, but I've never been in the heart of it, in the decision-making process where they're saying, okay, cool, we're going to put 20 million rand into this tech company or into this business. Now I'm in it. Now I'm seeing, okay, wait, but that's the same thing we could be doing in the creative industries. We should be investing more into the creative industry, investing in people and businesses and all that kind of stuff. So that journey, I think, has always been led to that. And by default, I'm a community builder, and it's like it's a pain point. I struggle not to build community. Even when I'm trying to do anything, like now we've separated the business. Now it's translated into tech startup. So Crico is an offshoot of Creative Nestlings. It's a tech startup where we realize community is the bedrock for the creative industries. Yet there are no platforms that really help you build community well. So you have your Instagrams, your social networks, your WhatsApps, your Discord, and all Slacks and all that kind of stuff. But adoption on the continent hasn't been like other parts of the world. And I think it's because they haven't been built for this parts of the continent, right? Of parts of the world, basically, the continent. So we want to build a tech platform that allows you to build your community, but they also monetize your community in our context, which is the continent. Because I think Patreon is great, but not if you're here. People are not necessarily subscribers in that kind of manner, right? But then people are building communities actively, 24/7, right? And yet there's no tools that allow you to build a community and monetize it, run like, and also make it seamless. Also have a better understanding of your community. I'm sure you've seen on WhatsApp groups, right? If you're running a WhatsApp group, you don't know who those people are on the other WhatsApp group, right? Especially when it grows. Like we have a group, WhatsApp group, like 1,024 creatives on it, right? We don't know most of those creatives.
Well, I have issues with WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And this is before they started this whole community.
Approach,
This whole community approach. But I actually don't think, and I was part of a group that I've left twice. I leave groups. Like I have no qualms about, okay, it's not working for me anymore, and I bounce.
Yeah.
But I don't believe WhatsApp is the best way to build community.
Yes.
Past a certain number, because I guess the community thing works slightly better now because you create that separation in terms of what you discuss, but human beings are a problem. So I've been in groups where this is the purpose of the group.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the conversation has nothing to do with the purpose of the group.
Yeah.
But so I am curious. So I've written, and this is an area that I spend a lot of time thinking about in terms of this idea of community.
Yeah.
So I try to create community for, in particular, African writers, writers, designers, etc. And I've tried different platforms. So I tried Slack before, I had an email thing, and now I just have a LinkedIn group.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
it's only active when I remember to go and say something.
Yeah.
But I'll share opportunities, and it's just there, all right? So what I believe is the greater challenge, and I'll say this, like I'm a big believer in hobbies.
Yeah.
I don't think everything should be monetized.
Yep.
And this is my other challenge with the way the world is structured now. It's like we have a conversation about everything and it feels like it must be monetized, right? With that said, I believe that for a lot of creative people on the continent, the issue is opportunity.
Yes.
To be able to make a living of some sorts of what it is that you're creating.
Yeah.
And then what you talked about in terms of the platforms that exist make it very difficult for you to monetize. So I wrote about newsletters. I've been running a version of a newsletter for over 10 years.
Yeah.
Starting off an email.
Yeah.
And I use Substack now.
Yeah.
But most of them use, Stripe?
Yes.
For the payment
method. So now you can't participate.
Even if I have subscribers outside of the continent, I literally can't access that money.
Yeah.
I mean, like you're saying, Patreon exists and you can use PayPal so you can get your money.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more work to create that space in terms of Patreon.
Yeah.
So you're focused on kind of building that up the community, right? And giving them the platforms.
Yeah.
How do you find opportunity for them?
The opportunities are there, right? So you find there's a lot of institutions available that are creating opportunities, organizations, people, individuals, and all that kind of stuff. The opportunities are there. Like if you go into one of my favorite Facebook pages is called The Resource, right? You find people, I'm looking for graphic design, I'm looking for logo design, I'm looking for photographer. I'm like, wait, with all of these platforms available in the world, people are still coming to this Facebook. Why? And I realize it's because that's where the communities feel strongest, right? And it's also there's Facebook, you can log out and leave it out. It's not always on your phone, right? People log in on the computer and Facebook, and WhatsApp is just too much on your phone, right? So it's just too quick to respond. So I realized the opportunities are there, but then the creatives are just not in the one central repository. So also because we don't understand, we don't have a good understanding of who the creatives are anyway. So who are the graphic designers, who are the logo designers, who are the illustrators, and all across the continent, you know? And I think because there's so much platforms now available, just doing different things, it's just harder to find people.
There's not like a Fiverr for...
Yes.
There's not like a Fiverr or for Africa.
For Africa. They are there, but I think they're too gig oriented, right? They're just not community oriented. So we want to be the more for community oriented. And we're adding things like events management and all that kind of stuff. Like, for example, we run a lot of events as Creative Nestlings, right? And I realized the process of planning an event has not gotten better at all. I still got to think about who's a good photographer for this dinner we're doing. Now, where do I find that photographer? Now I got to think, okay, cool, I know Cedric. Okay, cool, Cedric shoots events, but is he the photographer that I want right now? Let me go look at his portfolio. But wait, where do I find his portfolio? Like that is just a tiering process. It's just too much effort. Whereas if you kind of centralize all of those elements into one space, it becomes easier. And also the turnaround for opportunities become quicker also, right? Because now I can go onto this quicker platform and say I'm organizing a dinner, and then it gives you options. Oh, here are venues, here are photographers, here are, designers and all that kind of stuff. And I think just stimulating that process. I think this month, for example, we have about three events that we're doing. We're doing under Creative Nestlings. We have a dinner next week. We have a workshop next week on business and creativity. We're partnering up with Yoko. We have a dinner the week, the Thursday after, just 20 creatives, and then we have a talk in Cape Town. So all three events now, I got to think about how do I manage all those three events. I've tried different platforms like you mentioned also, just tedious. And because also I've realized those platforms they close off a loop, right? I'm part of a photographers union, like a photographer group on WhatsApp, but I can't find their portfolios onto that group. There's no way for them to plug and play their portfolios without posting directly. Why is that? Why is it making it so difficult to get more information about a person? But I realized for this platform, that's not what their business model is. Their business model is numbers. They want the phone numbers onto the platform, and that's it. Because then they can mechanize those numbers and all that kind of stuff. Whereas we want a different layer and a better understanding. Yeah. Because the better you understand your community, the better you can provide value. not necessarily monetize all the time, but offer value to them back, right? And then also there's a better feedback loop and all that kind of stuff. And also there's just a better sense of we're here together trying to build something together and all, even if it's hobbies and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think there's a great opportunity. And also it feeds back to Creative Nestlings because we've built this for 13 years we've built Creative Nestlings. But we just never had, at one point, had a good understanding of our community. There's been moments where I could tell you, if you ask me right now, get me a photographer in Ivory Coast who's available tomorrow that can shoot a wedding or an event, I could tell you. Now I don't know. Because WhatsApp is just, Instagram has ruined it all. Because now everyone's a photographer right on Instagram, which is great. I'm happy for everybody. But now there's no way to filter who's a professional photographer on Instagram.
Yeah.
So now you can hire them. I know Visco is trying to launch now. They've launched a new module where on Visco, if you're a professional photographer, you can pay for a tiered membership where you can say I'm a professional photographer, people can hire you. Okay. But Visco's not translated very well on the continent.
Yeah.
It's also just for photographers, but it's mostly for the cool wannabe photographers that are using their phones and all that. It's not necessarily for the pros. So I think we're trying to build that because it's in response to what we've seen in Creative Nestlings, because we want to do community better. We're seeing it now in partnership with the V&A Waterfront, for example. The V&A Waterfront has an incubator called Arts Alliance. So in there, we're trying to build a community to support the V&A's business needs, but then also the creative needs in Cape Town. And but now, you see, the opportunity is there at the V&A Waterfront for creatives to work with the V&A Waterfront and all its tenants, like brands and all that kind of stuff. They're also looking for designers, illustrators. But there's no way for someone to easily access those opportunities as a creative.
Yeah.
Right. So you're seeing, I'm seeing more and more of that across wherever I go to different organizations, that the opportunities are there for work, for creatives. The challenge is that that mechanism is not being built very well. Also, there's no transparency. There's also corporates don't understand how to talk to creatives. They don't know where to post about it for creatives. They'll think, let's just post to Instagram, that's it. But I'm like, but who's following you on Instagram? Oh, it's our peers. Oh, but they've lost the plot already. Right. So we're trying to build a better module around that. And that's what Creative Nestlings does, to try and always, if we find a gap, we try and build it. Or find someone else who can build it, or someone else who's already built it. That's been the goal of Creative Nestlings over the years, basically. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because I've built a network of writers across the continent and Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
For a client based in Europe, and I just kind of, when I was starting, because I just posted on my social media, and then I just get writers send me stuff. So I'm at the point where every now and then I get unsolicited stuff, and it's quite a big organization. It's a big NGO. Yeah. And it's mainly around health and immunization, that sort of stuff. And I remember early days trying to figure out how to manage this. I mean, I've used over 100 writers in over 30, 40 countries, right? Just in terms of how to harness this and how to manage it. And to be honest, I was talking to a friend who was talking about maybe kind of developing a platform for me. And it's like, but I don't have, it's not a stage where I have the funds to be able to develop.
A platform, and time and all that kind of stuff.
If I have another client or two more clients who are looking for writers and I'm managing, then it makes, it makes better sense. But those are some of the, I guess, like you're saying, I mean, I am an opportunity for a writer sitting somewhere who writes on particular areas.
Yeah. But how do you reach them? But how do they reach you?
How do I reach them? But also, how do they know that I'm
available?
Other than if you're following me, and I'm not as active on social media as it is.
Yeah. So we're also trying to avoid building a social network. I think it's always easy to end up building a social network. We're trying to avoid that as much as possible. I don't want this platform where you go to every day. I want this platform where you go to because you need an opportunity, or you're building a community, or you're running an event, or you're bored. Like, for example, I was saying to someone, I was supposed to be in Kampala next week, for example. The idea is we just land there and spend a week there. But what am I going to do? Now I gotta DM people, hey, what events are happening in Kampala this week? You don't know, because there hasn't, that centralization is gone. It used to be there. Facebook was very good at that in the beginning, but now it's not anymore. They don't care much about events. But that's important currency for us as creatives. When you land in a different city, you need to know what's happening around you. But it's gone. So that we're in that kind of structure into it.
And not everybody has, because for me, it's always, who do I know? The minute you went Kampala, I'm like, I thought of 2 people.
Yeah.
That's who I'd phone to find out what's going on.
Listen,
I'm going to be in town.
Yeah. And I think that's a lost art of people are traveling more now, but they're not connecting more when they travel. Right. And I think it's because it's lost that now as long as you post on Instagram, no one cares anymore. No one builds any new networks unless they're intentionally going to a conference where there's going to be networking. Even a conference, who networks anymore as much anymore? It's not the same. I'm scared. I suck at networking in person. I'm better digitally. I can talk to you digitally, but in person, a hello out of nowhere. No, never me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wind down, what is this I'm in?
Oh, yes.
And I mean, you're listed as entrepreneur in residence.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? Sounds really nice. Sounds cool, but what does that mean?
It's a cool job. So because I'm an entrepreneur myself, I'm in as a tech incubator and accelerator that invests in Black-owned tech companies. So we help them from idea to launch, basically. So I don't know if you know Fixer, Dropper, all of those companies.
I've actually used Fixer a couple of times. Yeah,
Fixer's an alumni for I'm in and all that kind of stuff. So we invest and then support them across their journey, basically.
Okay.
From idea all the way to building out their technology and launching and all that kind of stuff. And we also put cash, number one, and also support as much as possible. So they were looking for someone that has experience in building companies and all that kind of stuff. So entrepreneur in residence, someone that has experience in the field and still works in the field actively, but is also available to support those entrepreneurs and the program to better. I give the insights from the outside and get the entrepreneurs, help build the program internally, help find the resources internally, the money and tools and all that kind of stuff. That's the job, basically. It's part of IDF Capital, which is a fund management, VC, basically. So they invest in entrepreneurs across Africa, basically. I'm sure you know Polo Leteka. She was on Dragon's Den.
I don't know her personally, but I know.
Yeah, that's my boss there.
Okay.
That's my boss, yeah. So she started IDF and then I'm in, because I'm in focuses more on super, super early stage, which is one of the more very risky investments you make. Yeah, that early stage. So that's where I play the early stage. Just being effectively the entrepreneur inside the organization and just helping build out and support all the other entrepreneurs and all that kind of stuff. And I've been there 3 years now. It's an interesting job. We just recently wrapped up, invested into 30 young Black female students from lower LSM universities, universities where we saw there was not necessarily great programming around entrepreneurship. And they came out with some really interesting ideas around tech startups, and I can see some successes from there that would take over the world and all that. So people are doing stuff in hydrogen, in mobility, health, and all that kind of stuff. And they're building some amazing stuff. It's quite cool to see the ideas at an infancy. I get bored when an idea is now out there in the market. It's boring for me. You figured it out there, that's more you. But when it's still tethering and trying to figure out, that's where I like to play at. So it allows me to do that on the tech side. And then with creativeness, I do that on the creative side. So it's a good... No matter I would say no. I don't like working for anybody, but I would have said no. But this one was a good opportunity because it allowed me to learn, number one, investments, but also put my tech skills to an advantage for somebody else. Because I normally build things for creativeness things, but this one I would be building them to help go out there and really thrive and all that kind of stuff.
And also learning your lessons.
Yes.
When you're forced to help somebody else.
Yes, you learn.
You start to realize some of the steps that you've taken.
Yes.
I mean, we have talked over the years, and it's always been interesting kind of watching where you are.
Yeah.
By how you're talking about what you're doing.
Yes.
And there were times when you were down and it's just like, okay, I don't know if Creative Nestlings is going to exist any longer.
Yeah.
I think I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
And then there's those moments where it's like, oh, I see something.
Something, yeah.
You change direction, you change tact a little bit.
Yeah.
And being able to, in sharing that with somebody else, you literally have to articulate for yourself your journey.
Your journey, yes. Notes from your journey, yeah. 100%. I mean, creativeness has always been a love and hate because creativeness disturbs my filmmaking process, right? But I realized maybe I should, so now we're transitioning to a place where I'm trying to avoid leadership as much as possible. So I'm trying to raise money for creativeness, and so I'm able to then hand it over to somebody else. So I think Manka will take over for like a year, because so the goal is that no one over 35 should ever work in creative nestlings. Because I think once you're 35, life is a bit different to a 20-year-old. That gap is too fast. So I was trying to find young people to work into it and build it out the way they want. So one day also the kids can take over. I was saying to them yesterday, one of you guys has to take over creative nestlings. That's all I'm asking for. Just one of you, But it's most likely my niece is going to take over because she likes it. She attends all our events in Cape Town and all that kind of stuff. Right. But I'm realizing that, my love and hate creative nestlings was also because I was unfulfilled as an individual, right? And my creativity. I hadn't figured out who am I as a creative. But I'm starting to realize, okay, I'm a filmmaker. That's just bottom line. I'm a filmmaker. I must do whatever it takes to make films. And I must leverage this thing that I've built to make films. I think before I felt guilty whenever I took a cent from creative nestlings to pay myself or take any opportunity for myself. I think now I'm more accepting of, okay, it's fine. If a film opportunity comes up, I should also apply. Why am I not applying? Yeah. Or if I have a script idea, like I applied to Showmax to say no to my film idea, but that was a good feeling to click send. This is just me. Yeah. Right. So I'm learning my lesson that I want to make some films, and I think my films are what A24 would make if they were based on the continent. And so I think I'm realizing, okay, I must go out there and make sure people know I'm a filmmaker. Yes, I've made one documentary, but hey, it's a start to something. Yeah, I'm writing actively. I even help other people with their films, but they don't credit me because also that naivety. Oh, don't worry, you don't need to credit me. But I'm like, now from now on, when I do something for you, you must credit me because it's important. Because then opportunities then come to me to be able to fulfill my dreams too. I think that's important. So yeah, so that's been the journey of seeing that. And yeah, the ups and downs have been. But I'm realizing the ups and downs have been interesting because I think I was working from pain all the time. Now I'm like, okay, well, let's heal. Let's take time to, I know the kids like say heal. I get it now. You have to heal that inner child that kind of gets hurt in the process. And having a life coach has helped me. She's my mirror, basically. And so I created British White Lady. It's interesting. I'm talking to a British white lady about my life. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. and for me, that's a metric success that I never realized. That the ability to do that requires you to have come so far. Yeah. To need that person to help you reroute, not reroute, but fix and mend and internal stuff. Because she's not a therapist, she's a life coach. So it's about life. Yeah. And she asked me a question the other day, like asking me, so what do you do for fun? I could not even answer her. I don't know what that looks like. And I think it's because I've been so inundated with everybody else's lives that I never took time to myself because I was like, oh, but I hang out with my kids. Like, no, that's parenting. Yeah. What does Dillion do for himself?
What are your hobbies?
Well, yeah, and the basketball was when I stayed in Kilani, basketball was one hobby, but I realized that was a hobby for my son, not for me. Now I must figure out what is my hobby. If it's basketball, then I must do it with or without him. Yeah. And I think that's one thing I'm learning as I go and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
My man, thank you very much for coming through.
No, thank you so much.
Wish you all the best with figuring it all out.
Hey,
or realizing that you'll never figure it out and it's all about the journey anyway.
Yes. No, 100%. I'm all about the journey nowadays. Let's just go.
The Listen to Your Footsteps podcast is produced by Zebra Culture. If you have ideas of what we can do better, people you'd like us to have a conversation with, or would just like to share a thought, you can email me on info@zebraculture.com. To check out past episodes, go to kojobuffer.com/podcasts. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share with a friend. If you'd like to get a copy of the book, Listen to Your Footsteps, check out kojobuffer.com/book. There are details on the various spaces it's available at. I'd also appreciate it if you could leave a review or comment wherever you listen to your podcasts. Finally, there's the Zebra Culture by Kojo Buffer newsletter where on a weekly basis, I share a curated list of articles, playlists, videos, etc. that have caught my attention. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed having it.